Welcome to Mixed Combat Radio. It is Christmas Eve 2016. Me and Santiago holding down the fort for all of you guys, all of you commuters out there traveling late, or maybe you're going to catch this on the replay, traveling back home from Christmas tomorrow or Monday or whenever you decide to travel. But I decided I really wanted to bring you guys another show, mainly because it's the holidays. I felt like in a giving mood. And plus, there's some boxing we can talk about. So, Santiago, how you doing, brother?
Doing pretty good. I've got the 30 for 30 marathon running in the background. I've got my food here for today's podcast. And I'm ready to go on today's topics at hand.
Now, let's get into... I'm not going to say breaking news because that doesn't make sense. But we had a fight yesterday. Artur Beterbiev fighting some... no-name guy. What was his name again, Santiago? I'm sorry. It was a, not to disrespect his opponent, but I've never heard of him before.
You and me both. I wasn't even aware he was fighting yesterday, so let me look that up for you really quickly.
Okay, and I remember seeing the fight. It was a TKO within the first round. There was 2 knockdowns within the round. Within about, I would say, 45 seconds or so, Beterbiev, with his back against the ropes, caught his opponent with a great right hook on the inside counter, dropped him. I thought his opponent wasn't going to get back up from that hook alone, but he ended up getting back up and got beat up some more until he got knocked down again and then did not get up for the count. But obviously this fight is not a big fight. It was a showcase, tune-up, whatever you want to say.
Stay busy.
Yeah, it was a stay busy fight, obviously.
His opponent's name was Isidoro Ranuri Prieto, and he entered the fight with a record of 26-1-3.
That's actually not a bad record, but it's just like it. Obviously, like the names could be nobody's, but like the record off the ear, the numbers alone doesn't seem that bad. But visually, you could tell that guy was just levels below Beterbiev. And it's not that Beterbiev is that good, and this is what I really wanted to talk about, obviously, because this fight had really no significance to it. But Beterbiev has sort of become like the new Shabransky of the division, I would say. Shabransky was sort of the darling of the division. Everyone thought this guy was going to be the next big guy out of Eastern Europe after Kovalev has come up. Shabransky has now gotten finished by Sullivan Barrera. And now we have Beterbiev, who I remember just before Shabransky was getting knocked out, people were saying that Beterbiev was a little bit chinny, that Shabransky was the real guy out of the two. But now Shabransky's lost, and I've seen a lot of people say that now Beterbiev is the real deal. And I'm just curious about that because what do you see anything in him that makes you think that this guy could either A, beat the next contenders around him like a Sullivan Barrera or a Joe Smith, or B, beat the champions like a Sergey Kovalev, Andre Ward, and Adonis Stevenson?
Oh, well, obviously I've long heard and been following Beterbiev's career. As I said in the last show, he knocked out Gabriel Campillo on a PBC card. And, just like Shabransky, he was coming up too. A lot of people thought that he was so good that he might get his shot, like in the next few fights. That's how confident they were in him. Now, I think it's a little premature to put him up there with the likes of Kovalev and Andre Ward. I definitely think
the guy's only 11-0.
Yeah, I definitely don't think he's up there yet. So I would obviously prefer that they get him a couple more showcase fights, not just tune-ups or stay busy fights, but actual fights that let us think, okay, he's not in with a guy who we would consider a pigeon, but at the same time we're not gonna think, oh, this guy's got the chance for the upset either.
True.
Gradually bring him up, and then have him stake his case as I am going to be part of that top level division.
Yeah, and it's interesting because if you had to name somebody in either TBV's top 15 or somebody that's just a name that is there an opponent that you would see as an ideal opponent for him next?
At the moment, given how yesterday's show went, and as you pointed out too, with the promotional squabble that does exist within the sport, Obviously, I think the most likely candidate for me, at least, would be Joe Smith Jr. Simply
True.
because they both fought on a PBC card. Smith is coming off two impressive wins, and it would be a good fight. It would be a good name to add to Beterbiev's record, and it
Or
would
Joe
also
Smith
be
Jr.'s.
or Joe Smith Jr.'s too. Both could beat one another and stake their case as, yes, I am a top opponent. I am not just a one shot star.
Yeah, and to be honest, I'm not. I feel like you're a little bit more sold on Beterbiev than I am because I favor Joe Smith Jr. If they were to fight, let's say, in their next bout, each respective's next bout is against the other, and that's in like May or April or whenever, I would favor Joe Smith Jr. in that bout, personally. I just see that Beterbiev is the type of guy that likes to kind of be quote unquote cute in the ring. He likes to be on the back foot a little bit, and if you give Joe Smith Jr. the ability and the room to come forward, he will come forward, and he's a bruiser. And I just don't. I've never seen Beterbiev hold up to somebody's aggression that's that level of a person's aggression, And not to say that Joe Smith Jr. is this great guy, this great boxer, but I think he's definitely shown that he is at least some levels above Beterbiev at this point. He's obviously way more seasoned, beating Fonfara and Hopkins. So I'm not sold on Beterbiev yet. I think I need to see him fight some more like top 20 guys, personally.
No, that's a fair assessment. He is only 11-0, even if people do have that much confidence in him. But at the same time, you still want to build him up. I mean, let's see, because I do believe no, that's somebody else. But like, aside from Gabriel Campillo, there is not really any other names on there to that
especially
stand
on
out.
PBC's roster, especially. PBC's
definitely.
Roster,
yeah. I mean,
there's guys I can think of right now, like an Eric Soklin from Sweden. He's an undefeated southpaw. I think that'd be an intriguing matchup. We have him ranked number 15 right now in our TBV rankings. There's guys obviously that he could fight, but I just don't see Al Heyman putting him at a guy that's 11-0 right now, that seems to have at least some flaws at the moment, putting up against top 15 opposition. I just don't see that happening. Not to say that Artur Beterbiev is not that level, but he hasn't shown me that he is that level yet.
Yeah, like I said, it's a little premature to put him up there with the top guys. So I do feel that, like Joe Smith Jr., he does still need a little seasoning, either fighting one another or fighting another notable name in the light heavyweight division that can stake his claim as someone who wants to be part of that division.
Yes. Now, you ready to go to the next topic?
Shoot.
Lee Selby is fighting Jonathan Barros in the co-headlining feature between Carl Frampton and Leo Santa Cruz, number 2. First off, I think it's just interesting that they have Lee Selby on the co-main event of Carl Frampton. I think that's, one, just great promotional work, just because of the relative relation between the two, because Carl Frampton's, of course, Northern Irish, part of the UK. Lee Selby is Welsh, part of the UK, both in the same division. I think that's some of the smartest matchmaking from PBC that I've seen so far. And I think Jonathan Barros is a great matchup for Lee Selby. I think we have him ranked number 13 right now in our top 15 rankings featherweight at TBV for Jonathan Barros. Lee Selby is ranked number 5. Leo Santa Cruz is ranked number 2. Carl Frampton is ranked number 1. So we have 4 top 15 featherweights all on the same card on the 2 top fights of the card. I think that's just fantastic. First off, as a fan of the sport, a fan of that division, which is a very exciting division. But I wanted to get your perspective on, 1, the matchup of Jonathan Barros versus Lee Selby, and 2, just the promotional thought of putting these 2 fights on the same card.
Oh, no, definitely. I'm excited, listening to who's going to be on that card, and then knowing that Selby's going to be part of the co-main event with Carl Frampton and Leo Santa Cruz. It is smart matchmaking because, as anyone who's listened to the TVV show a while back regarding Gary the win, I suggested that, Carl Frampton and Lee Selby should fight each other because that fight will sell in the UK. They are two very
Yes.
popular fighters in Europe.
Now, what have you seen Jonathan Barrow's fight by chance?
Unfortunately, no, I've never seen him fight, but I have heard the name and I've heard very good things about him.
He's an orthodox fighter. He's a trying to think of a comparison because I know you're big on like fighter comparisons. I know you're that type of guy. He's a class. I know he's Argentinian, but I don't think he fights like normal Argentinian boxers. One, he doesn't have the powers like normal Argentinians have. Like Lucas Matisse is the stereotypical Argentinian boxer. You know, a boxer puncher with great power. Jonathan Barros is more of a swarmer volume guy. He reminds me more of actually of like a European boxer in a sense, with more of a Mexican stance. And I think it's interesting style-wise against Lee Selby because Lee Selby, as we know, is a guy that likes to be on the back foot. He likes boxing. He's not a guy that's trying to knock you out. That's not the type of guy he is. You know, he calls himself the Welsh Mayweather for a reason. And now we have a guy that's really going to come forward a lot. So just style-wise, it's going to be interesting to see how that ends up and how that executes within the ring. Because we have both guys that are going to allow each other to follow their easiest path to victory, in a sense. You get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, the style matchup is completely complementary to one another, especially for Lee Selby. He is a true stylist, you know.
He's a matador.
He's not that guy who's gonna be going in there for the kill. He's the guy who's basically gonna try and basically showcase himself as I am the best at what I do. That's all.
Now, I'm pretty sure I've heard you say that your opinion is that Carl Frampton is going to beat Leo Santa Cruz in a rematch, right?
I think yeah. I mean, I don't want to make any premature predictions, but I am of the opinion that should Frampton get past Santa Cruz, I think that this next fight is the next biggest fight for both fighters in their respective careers.
Now, who do you see winning between a potential Carl Frampton Lee Selby matchup? Because I think that to me is highly intriguing style wise. Because similar to like the Jonathan Barros being the come forward guy that's going to put a lot of volume out, Carl Frampton's like the perfect version of that in a sense. You know, Carl Frampton was going to be able to slip shots that guys like Jonathan Barros could never slip while coming inside. You know, so I just see that being like a true style sort of Einstein-like equation for us fans and pundits to try to figure out, because there's so many paths to victory for both men in that bout. You know, how do you see that going down?
Oh no, for sure. I mean, Carl Frampton did show that even against somebody who's got the height and reach advantage, that he can still, control a fight on the inside against the late Alejandro Gonzalez Jr., rest in peace, and against, Santa Cruz, of well-known and highly appreciated volume puncher. He was shown to be able to fight mid-range, control that level of fighting without letting the pressure that Santa Cruz is known to give opponents get to him. So I could definitely see maybe Carl Frampton assuming the role of the bull he has before against Lee Selby, because honestly I can't see Lee Selby as anything other but a stylist. But I could be wrong. Selby could show another level to his game
Another gear
that completely takes us aback, just like Deontay Wilder did against Bermane Stavern.
True. Now, obviously, we're going to break down these individual fights when it's closer to fight time. Obviously, this fight isn't till, late January, right? I forget.
Yes, January 28th.
Thank you. So, we're going to move on to another topic. We have two more topics to get to, and we're going to wrap it up. Because, like I said, this is sort of a bonus show for all you guys, the fans, all you Patreon supporters, though this will be free just because it's Christmas. I'm giving. So, what big topic do you want to get to next, Santiago? We got Freddie Roach saying some very interesting things, and Peter Fury also saying some interesting things.
Honestly, I guess since we're still on the topic of UK boxing, we can just keep it together and go with.
In the spirit of UK boxing, we're going to
Let's
go to Tyson Fury's potential comeback. Now, Peter Fury was speaking to 4C Sports Media, and we obtained these quotes via BoxingScene.com. And he was talking about Tyson Fury's comeback, and I'm just going to read these quotes to you, and then we're going to break it down. As we speak now, he is with his brother, and he is with his father, and he's training every day. Peter recently told 4C Sports Media. He's running, he's training, and he's asking when I'm back. Hold on 1 second, sorry. When I'm back in the gym, so he's going to be back. Expect Tyson to be in the ring around April, May next year, which is 2017 because it's 2016 still. He will be back. He'll be back stronger, positive-minded. He has not lost anything, really. He's coming back to not only get the belts, but to prove that he is the only heavyweight in the world. He is coming back with a vengeance, and I expect that late on next year, or the early part of the year after, he'll be back fighting for the belts again. He will have a couple of fights, 2 or 3 fights, and he'll be back fighting for the belts. Personally, for me, I like to see Tyson fight Wilder. I think that's a massive fight across the pond. I think with the two of them, the way they speak and the way they go at it, and they are two colossal-sized giants, aren't they? I think they are well matched. I think that would
6'7" and 6'9" respectively, and if their little episode after Wilder knocked out Spilka was any indication of how well that fight could sell, like I said before, I don't know what does, because honestly, these guys could sell the fight. You don't need any of these promoters to do shit. They will do the selling on their own.
Oh, 100%. And let me finish up this quote, and then we can get to breaking it down. And that's a fight we want anyway. So hopefully Wilder stays undefeated, and towards the end of next year, we'd like to try to make that fight. Now, like you said, that episode after the Spilka win, which was entertaining to say the least, right? I think we both enjoyed it heavily. And
he fucking went into the ring, looked like he was getting ready to just duke it out with Wilder right then and there. He even took off his jacket. That's how hyped Tyson looked, to me. They just started talking and talking. He took off his jacket. He was he was charging back and forth in the ring, and it was kind of. I was watching this with my friends, and we're like, why wouldn't you want to see this fight? Seriously.
And it's interesting because obviously Fury was at that point still scheduled to have the rematch clause with everything with Vladimir Klitschko. And then obviously he had his whole cocaine issues and his issues, right? So that the fight with Wilder never materialized. But there was a point where it seemed like, because Wilder beat Spilka, and I think originally Fury and Klitschko were scheduled to fight in March or April of this year.
Their fight was postponed twice, actually.
Yes, it was postponed several, at least twice, I believe. It might have been postponed more than twice. But, and so it seemed like Fury was going to go in there in a rematch a couple months after this Wilder win and this big hype moment, and he's going to go in there and beat Klitschko, and then they were going to fight later on in the year, probably in the UK, and they were going to unify the whole division. And that was actually going to happen. I truly believe that both parties wanted that, and both men wanted that. Because you have to realize that obviously there are tons of controlling parties trying to negotiate this fight, and who have different stakes in the fights, especially these big ones.
Not only that, but the thing you need to remember too is that Fury was one of only 2 people we really wanted to see Wilder against, the other being Povetkin.
True, and obviously that's changed now with Joshua and even Parker in a sense. They've taken, I think, the right fights to at least put themselves into the conversation amongst people like us.
No, most definitely. I mean, Joshua got the belt simply because, he chose to ignore the IBF's 15-day mandatory to defend against Vyacheslav Glazkov in exchange for the Vladimir Klitschko rematch. I mean, that's how set he was, to us at least, and to me at least, proving that what he did to Klitschko was no fluke. And I was of the same mindset that if we get the same Klitschko we got that fight, because I would not be surprised if that happened, it would be an easy way for him to prove his legitimacy and set up the fight with Wilder.
Or like honestly, like if Tyson Fury went in there and beat Klitschko back to back within 12 months, and he didn't fight Wilder right afterwards, and he took like a tune-up, no one would have cared. Like let's be like completely honest. Like
now we would have still been, wrapping our minds around the fact, holy shit, he did it twice, and no controversy either, know?
And I didn't think there was any controversy really in the first fight.
And the thing you need to remember about that, too, is that he beat Klitschko in his adopted hometown of Germany.
Well, you mean like home country, not hometown, but yes, and it was funny because, like, everyone always talks about, like, hometown robberies or, like home cooking. Like, if a fighter goes to fight another guy in his home country, like he's automatically like can't like go to the judges. But most fights, especially title fights at those level, they import judges. Like even for like the Richard Commey Denis Shafikov fight, all 3 judges for that fight in Russia, which was in a very tiny venue, you remember, all 3 judges were American. So like people always want to talk about like home cooking and stuff like that. And, like, obviously, we have issues with judging. Like, I'm not, like, saying, like, oh, judging is great. Like, no, we have issues with judging. But, like, it's the whole nationalistic angle about it, I think, is kind of overplayed. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, no, easy. I mean, we have
especially at the highest level. Especially at the highest level.
Yeah, I mean, look at Felix Sturm, for example, or Arthur Abraham, or Lucien Bute, who preferred to fight in their adopted home countries.
Mm-hmm. Now, one, do you believe Peter Fury when he says that Tyson Fury's back in training, that Tyson Fury is going to be able to fight in April and May?
Okay. Now, yeah, I just got to put this.
No, you go. I'm just messing with you.
All right. So, anyone who's heard me speak on the Boxing Voice when it came to the whole, are these fights gonna happen?
Hold on, Santiago. You got to turn the sound off on 30 for 30, man. Like, what are you doing here? Like,
all right, sorry about that.
Don't worry about it.
All right, so like I was saying, anyone who's heard me talk about those speculated fights on the Boxing Voice knows that I'm of the opinion, unless there's a press conference being held for these fights, it's all nothing but talk to me. I'm not gonna believe anything until something's become official.
Now, I'm obviously of the same mindset, and he's not saying like they're fighting Wilder in April or May, obviously, because Wilder already has a fight. But do you like we've seen Tyson Fury at Billy Joe Saunders' fight, which was what 2 weeks ago? He looked out of shape there in the stands. I'm pretty sure Tyson Fury was in the crowd for the Anthony Joshua Eric Molina fight, and he still looked out of shape then. There's been no point where Tyson Fury has ever looked like he's back into boxing shape. It's not like Tyson Fury was ever like a Anthony Joshua type figure, but he was still in shape at one point, and he does not look in shape still. So I don't know. I'm not of the mindset of like, oh, it's just like quote unquote like promoter or manager or trainer talk, like we can't believe it. But I think on another level, like we've seen Tyson Fury recently in public, like his own body image shows us that this is not true, in my opinion. Now, what I do think is that this is a sign that at least Tyson Fury wants to come back. Now, there was a point, I don't know if you read the whole like Rolling Stone big article and the big interview with Tyson Fury that really detailed his whole like cocaine issues and everything like that. And
oh, dude, I follow that. I could follow that stuff on Instagram. That's how well detailed, Tyson Fury's problems were.
Yes.
For anybody to see, really. Facebook trend, Instagram. Anywhere you look, you Googled it. The cocaine, the controversial tweets, and everything. I mean, there was no way for you not to notice it.
And I think. And around that time, I don't know for a fact, I don't have the quotes in front of me, but I believe he alluded to the fact that he was thinking about never boxing again. And that's when I was kind of at the point of like, wow, we really can't even put this guy in our rankings. Like, this guy's obviously not thinking boxing. This guy is not a boxer at this point in time. This guy is barely trying to be a human being. And to this quote, and I do believe that Peter Fury and Tyson Fury are very close from my understanding of their relationship, just my awareness and what I've seen through the media and through what they have presented to us. They seem like they're close. So obviously Peter Fury believes that Tyson Fury still wants to box. So that is at least maybe a good hope, a ray of sunshine to the UK fans, that all the Tyson Fury fans, that hey, this guy's still thinking about boxing. This guy's not fully out of the sport. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, trust me. I mean, he's gonna be covered if he announces his comeback. He has a fight set up. He is going to be followed. I mean, he was the man who people said single-handedly brought back life to the heavyweight division with his victory over Vladimir Klitschko. Now we've got guys like Anthony Joshua, Joseph Parker. Deontay Wilder had already won a title, and it was kind of like the sky was the limit for the heavyweight division. And then when this happened, it was kind of like, the fuck just happened?
And so it's like Tyson Fury is like one of the most intriguing people that I've ever seen in the sport, purely because of his persona and the fact that at times I truly don't think it's a persona. Like Floyd Mayweather has a persona about him. Like Floyd Mayweather, deep down inside, behind closed doors, for all the people that don't know, is a Howard Hughes OCD crazy motherfucker. On the outside, he is a showbiz entertainer, gangster wannabe, and that's just his persona. With Tyson Fury, his persona is a crazy gypsy, and he is actually legitimately a crazy gypsy, and that's not a bad thing, but it's just like it's something that I've sort of come to realize that this guy is, when he's going off on rants and he's going into the crazy, that's not him just playing up a act. That's him legitimately thinking those things. You know what I'm saying?
He gives Victor Ortiz a run for his money when it comes to the little mental episodes.
Oh my God, Victor Ortiz. Oh, I can't wait to break down that. Who's Victor Ortiz fighting?
I'm not sure. I wasn't even aware he had a fight lined up.
Is it Brandon Rios?
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, yes. That's it. My God.
Vern Gully told us
that's
about it.
That's at StubHub, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gonna be at StubHub. I even told him that if he can get me a ticket. And that's another
Fern,
fight.
Get me a ticket too, man.
That's another fight that's gonna sell on its own. Adding another topic to today's discussion. Because those two have been heated towards each other on Twitter and everything.
That's the classic LA Mexican American territorialism. Like these guys that come up in the Southern California Mexican American boxing community. There's some heat. There's rival camps and everything like that, and I don't even fully understand it because I'm not Mexican American. I'm not part of that sort of community. So I just know it from being on the outside, and it's intense. And these guys have been around for, God, 15 plus years easily.
Yeah, I mean, hell, Ortiz
plus
is only
amateurs.
Ortiz is only 29 years old too.
Ortiz is only 29 years old.
Yeah, born in 1987.
That motherfucker is 29. Because you know why? Because his chin is the age of Bernard Hopkins. Okay, it's like a 52-year-old man's chin in a 29-year-old man's body, and you throw him enough athletic gifts to be stupid, and you throw him boxing gloves, and that's Victor Ortiz.
Unfortunately, and I love Victor Ortiz. I've been following his career since the Maidana fight.
And it's funny because you will always see Victor Ortiz at boxing shows in LA, right? He's one of the few people that you can almost guarantee is going to be at the fights, right?
Yeah, I mean he is a California, local. I think he, if I remember correctly, he lives in I think Ventura.
Yes, and I do believe he lives in Ventura, and not that when I say I didn't like Victor Ortiz, not because I think he's a dick or anything like that. He's from what I've seen, a genuinely nice guy to the fans. He's always there to take pictures. He's always there to talk. Always has a smile on his face. But it's funny because like every time I see my fights, he's always saying that he has a broken hand. And I'm just like, man, maybe you shouldn't be boxing. You know, like when you bring up like Rocky Marciano and like brittle hands, I'm like, I kind of thought of Victor Ortiz. Like Victor Ortiz is just like what I think of when I think of like brittleness in boxing.
Yeah, and he's had some controversial moments in his career from what he said after the Maidana loss and after the entire Mayweather fiasco.
Oh, the Mayweather fiasco. I still watch that from time to time just to get a good laugh.
I still can't wrap my head about how that fight ended.
What do you mean by that?
I mean, dude, I was watching this with my friends. I bought the pay-per-view and everything. I was looking forward to it. And then when that fourth round happened and it ended the way it did, I was kind of like...
You were pissed?
Yeah, I was pissed. I was dumbfounded.
Now, now, who were you pissed at? Or were you just pissed that happened?
I was pissed that it happened because I was looking at Ortiz doing that headbutt, and I'm like, why the fuck did you do that? There was no point. It was only the fourth round. You're the WBC champion. And to a degree, Mayweather took that away from him when he went on that entire terrain with Larry Merchant.
Oh, God. And now, obviously, like, we're way off topic, but it doesn't matter. Who gives a shit? Do you think that the Mayweather knockout of Victor Ortiz was dirty?
I wouldn't say it was dirty, but I would, to a degree, call it unsportsmanlike, because he knew Ortiz didn't know what was going on. I mean, Ortiz was just there trying to hug him and kiss him and whatnot. He just fucking let loose a left hook, right? And that was it. And I was kind of like, it's a knockout, but as far as I'm concerned, his last legitimate knockout was against Ricky Hatton.
I still count as a knockout because he did ice like Victor Ortiz, like he 1-2 that bitch, just like bam bam out, Oh God, it's funny if you are listening to this show and you haven't seen this knockout, pause this show. I never say that because you should always listen to this show. But anyways, pause this show, go to YouTube, or if you're on YouTube, just like do a new tab and search Victor Ortiz Floyd Mayweather knockout and just laugh for a few minutes and then come back to the show because it's that funny. I'm sorry. Now, do you favor Victor Ortiz against Brandon Rios?
Oh, man. I mean, when we talk about Victor Ortiz, we got to talk about him in the same light we talk about James Kirkland. And when I say that in the sense that we don't know which Victor Ortiz is going to show up to the fight. It could be the Victor Ortiz that fought and beat Andre Berto, handed him his first loss, or it could be the Ortiz that did what he did against Mayweather and kind of checked out against Louis Collazo.
Yeah, and it's funny because I kind of thought about that fight too, because that was Victor Ortiz was on the comeback, right? That was like his comeback fight. He was gone for a bit because of his broken jaw, right?
Yeah, it was his first fight since the Josecito Lopez loss.
Yeah, and I remember thinking like, ooh, like Collazo, like he hasn't been around in a bit, but I remember him being tough. This is gonna be interesting. And Victor Ortiz looked good, and then he just got worked. He got hit, and you could tell that the mentality and the willpower of Victor Ortiz has, I think, always been a question mark. But
asterisk, big ass asterisk. He checked out after that second round. That was it. You knew he could get up, but he had already checked out.
Yeah, you could tell that he was like completely aware his legs were under him, but he was like, I'm not in it. Like he just did not want what Collazo was putting on him. And I don't blame him. Because like getting your jaw broken is not fun. I had my jaw dislocated once, getting kicked in the face in Muay Thai practice, and that shit hurt, like that shit isn't fun. So I don't know. It's just interesting, like I favor Brandon Rios against Victor Ortiz purely due to that huge asterisk that you mentioned, is that Victor Ortiz I can never trust to be willing to bite down on his mouthpiece and keep going. I just do not see that in him ever again. And not that Brandon Rios is awesome lately. I thought Brandon Rios was never coming back personally, but I don't know. It's funny because like Ferngully is like so pumped on that fight, and like in a sense like most people are, like it's just like one of those fights that should have happened 5 years ago or so, and we're glad it's happening now. But hey, these guys are so old. These guys are, and not in terms of age, but just in terms of
wear and tear.
Wear and tear, the battle worn. These guys have seen action in terms of boxing. So it's one of those fights. If I go see it live, I might dread it because we might see somebody really get hurt, a la Bernard Hopkins, Joe Smith Jr.
Because the sad thing about that too is that we can easily say that Victor Ortiz is the more technically sound fighter between the two.
He is. Like that's not even a question. That's the thing. But it's purely because I can see Brandon Rios lasting 12 rounds, and I cannot see Victor Ortiz lasting 12 rounds.
Yeah, and he did that too weight trained against John Murray.
Yeah. Now let's get to the last topic and wrap it up because it is Christmas Eve, and we just want to give you that little extra show, that little bonus show on the commute in the holidays. Now, Freddie Roach, of course, good old Freddie Roach, always the quintessential trainer that likes to put himself in the media, is now hyping up Terrence Crawford versus Manny Pacquiao, a fight that I personally want to see more than almost any other fight in boxing, actually. And Freddie Roach said, getting a win always put in reference to Crawford's win against John Molina Jr. Getting a win always puts you closer to a Manny Pacquiao fight. Manny wants to keep fighting, and if we don't get the Mayweather fight, we want to fight the best guys out there. We don't want easy fights. We'll fight anyone. We want to fight anyone in the top 10. I like the fight at 140, but he hasn't fought at 140, referring to Pacquiao, in a long time. I think he will be a bit quicker and a bigger puncher, but he's been at 147 for so long, so we will see. So, a couple things. One, about a year ago, Freddie Roach wasn't really even talking about Crawford that much in discussion. And usually, whoever Freddie Roach is sort of trying to hype up is usually who the Manny Pacquiao team is trying to fight, in my opinion. Whether they get that opponent is a different story, but I do believe there's some sort of correlation between the two. So now it's just interesting that Freddie Roach is now talking about Crawford. And it's interesting he's talking about 140 like that's a serious option. And I know many fans of Manny Pacquiao that have defended him not taking this Terrence Crawford fight because Terrence Crawford said that he wanted the bout to be for his belts at 140. And the fact that Manny Pacquiao's a 147 guy. And usually I'll come back with, well, he fought Chris Algieri at 144, so why can't he fight Crawford at a catchweight and still have the titles up, right? But anyways, I digress.
And they did that, to allude to the Crawford fight, to see how does Pacquiao manage making weight at 144, maybe we can do 140.
Mm-hmm. And it's, obviously Pacquiao's, in my opinion, a small guy. Like, Pacquiao is not a true 147 pounder. I think he's a true 140 pounder.
Yeah,
but he just doesn't want to cut the weight because of his age. Right? Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I mean, not only is he older, but he's also only 5'6", 5'5" and a half.
Yeah.
He's a short guy at best.
And now, do you, obviously, it's sort of the same question, and you may give the same answer in longs of the Peter Fury credibility in terms of what he's been saying. But with Freddie Roach, do you believe that this fight is on the horizon for 2017? Do you believe that Crawford, Manny Pacquiao, maybe not the next fight for either guy, but do you think this fight does happen next year? And it could be purely opinion.
Yeah, of my opinion, I'm still of the mindset that it's still all talk, but I do believe that this could be one of the fights that could happen next year. Maybe Pacquiao's last fight, the passing of the torch and all that shit, because the thing about it too is that we know Crawford's good. I mean, we compare him these days to, Mayweather, given his performance against John Molina Jr. And I wouldn't be surprised if, most of us would probably split between, some still believe Pacquiao has what it takes to beat Crawford, the other half thinks he's too old and, will show his dominance in the fight. Mm-hmm. But if Pacquiao does win, he just adds to his legacy because he's never won a title at 140 before.
He's never won a title at 140? Did he skip that division?
He skipped that division entirely.
Didn't Mayweather do that?
I am not sure, to be honest with you, but I know this much. Pacquiao had one fight at 135 pounds, and then he just skipped straight to the fight with De La Hoya.
That's right. Now, it's funny because I'm of the mindset that Terrence Crawford is, skill-wise, purely technique and skill, is the best boxer in boxing right now. I'm of that mindset. And there are tons of people that are going to disagree with me. Tons of fanboys coming out of the woodwork. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's opinion. But this fight with Manny Pacquiao, like you said, is a passing of the torch bout. And it's something that Mayweather, unfortunately, never gave boxing. Mayweather chose to fight Manny Pacquiao and then Andre Berto and then retire. Most people wanted him to fight like a Keith Thurman or a Danny Garcia and really pass off that torch to the next guy. And he didn't do it. And it's interesting because obviously Manny Pacquiao has fought guys like Jesse Vargas since the Floyd Mayweather fight. And people Manny Pacquiao fans can sort of hang their hat on that and say, hey, look, he fought a young champion. And it's like, no, Jesse Vargas isn't a Terrence Crawford. Like, we at some point have to realize that if, and we do hold, I think, the greatest of our athletes to a higher standard for a reason, because we want them to always be great. If Manny Pacquiao doesn't fight Terrence Crawford, I think it will hurt his legacy a little bit more, especially since his legacy in the past, I would say, 4 or 5 years, has really seen some issues. I don't know what the right word is, but it's with his stance against homosexuals coming out, his loss to Floyd Mayweather, the loss to Marquez, all these things have sort of built up to Manny Pacquiao not losing a bit of shine on his legacy, but in a sense he did. And I wonder if he pulls a Mayweather, in a sense, which is deserving. If he doesn't want to fight Terrence Crawford, he's of every right to do that. He's made enough money. He's the second best of his generation. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer, the best Filipino boxer of all time, and there probably will never be a guy that's like Manny Pacquiao in our lifetime. But I think not picking Terrence Crawford for a fight will hurt his legacy. Now, what do you have to think about that?
No, I believe that too. I mean, like you said too. I mean, it didn't take away from his legacy. Just the same way, Hopkins losing to Smith Jr. didn't take away from his legacy. But at the same time, it's kind of like his stances on homosexuality, the Mayweather loss, the way he handled the Mayweather loss. Mm-hmm. It really did. It didn't put him in a good light. It really did, especially for me, because it sounded like such a cop out with the shoulder injury. When Thomas Hearns broke his right hand against Marvin Hagler, Emmanuel Stewart was the one who told him, "Don't tell people that you broke your right hand, because that'll take away from the fight and that'll take away from the performance." Yes,
and now quickly to interject, when I'm talking about the whole Terrence Crawford fight losing shine on Manny Pacquiao's legacy, I'm not talking about Manny Pacquiao losing the fight. I'm talking about Manny Pacquiao not choosing to fight Terrence Crawford. You get what I'm saying? Like, if Manny Pacquiao was to go in and fight a Victor Ortiz next, like...
Oh, we would all laugh at that.
We would, right? Like,
we would look at that the same way we looked at Canelo Khan. Easy.
Yes. And, but I could totally see Manny Pacquiao choosing a level of opponent similar to that instead of Terrence Crawford. And do you think that choice takes away the shine? Not talking about the loss, because I think if Manny Pacquiao goes in there and loses to Terrence Crawford, I don't think it would be viewed as a loss. I think it would be viewed more as like when Joe Louis lost to Rocky Marciano. Like that doesn't take away any shine from Joe Louis's career.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, he loses. There is no shame in losing to a fighter the quality and caliber of Terrence Crawford. You know, it continues to put him up there as one of the best fighters of his generation. You know, when we look back at Mayweather's career, we still think of some of the fighters that he didn't fight, and for various reasons. But when we look at Pacquiao's record, we barely see that in his career. You know, he eventually got the Mayweather fight when people thought that it was Pacquiao who was gonna duck out of it. You know, at one point. So there is no shame in losing to Terrence Crawford.
Is there shame in not picking Terrence Crawford though? Like, is there shame in avoiding that fight? You know, I'm not gonna use the word duck because I don't think that's what it is. But is there a potential for a loss of reputation or legacy or whatever it is, fandom? And shying away from the Terrence Crawford bout and retiring for Manny Pacquiao?
To a degree, yes, because leading into Pacquiao's last fight with Vargas, he still hadn't announced an opponent. You know, we knew when he was going to fight, but we didn't know who was going to fight. You know, people were trying to punch in their tickets for the Pacquiao fight. Terrence Crawford being one of them up until he dropped the ball with Victor Postal. You know, so it's kind of like when we saw what Crawford did against Postal, we were thinking to ourselves, oh, this is going to be a good fight, so on and so forth. And, you know, to a degree, it would take a little bit away because it would become a small asterisk on him. It's like, why didn't he take the Terrence Crawford fight, you know?
Yes. And I think that pretty much wraps it up, personally. I think this has been a great show, and I will be back with an exclusive MMA-only show on Monday. Because obviously tomorrow's Christmas. Happy holidays, everyone. And we will break down 207 for you guys. Santiago, since it's an MMA only show, I will not ask you to be on it. But if you do want to be on it, feel free. But Tuesday, I'm hoping to do a preview show on the New Year's Eve cards in Japan. Because I believe we have, last time I checked, it was 7 world title bouts. Legit world title bouts happening within a 2-day window in Japan. And just like every year at this time, Japan always gets it right. Japan always produces a great show. So, Santiago, any final thoughts on any of the topics we've talked about?
No, there's not much more to say than what we already have. We even got to add an extra topic about the Ortiz-Rios fight. Yeah. So, everyone who listens to the show, enjoy the exclusive MMA topic that Matt will be talking about on his next show. Matt, I look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. Everyone have happy holidays, and I look forward to being on here again.
All right. Thank you, Santiago. And everyone out there, drive safe. Have a great one. Peace.